Okay, so I'm starting here. I've already taped my piece of paper down, and I've got a few different brushes that I'm going to make use of. I've got paints, and I have some water. And I went outside with my iPad and just took a picture of a tree in my front yard. I'm going to use that as my background, as my reference, and then I'll have this out of the way. You won't actually see it while I'm working on it, but you know that I am working from this. You should also go take a picture of something. Go for a little walk, look for a tree or some other thing that sticks out to you, and use it as a reference. When we're painting, we want to be able to look at things to make a decision as to how it looks. Once you get to know what you're doing, you can start to do things that are not in a reference, but getting to know those things in the first place is really important. So we're going to start with a tree in my front yard. Couple things to keep an eye on as I'm working on this. Obviously, it's at a high speed, so you're not going to be going quite as fast. And you'll see at certain times I'm taking breaks. This isn't an uncut thing. It actually overall took me a couple hours working on this. I would paint for a while, then let it dry for a bit. Paint for a while, let it dry for a bit. So I start out with just the basic kind of rough outline of where I'm expecting things to be. And then I come in. You can see that I'm mixing my colors a little bit up in the watercolor set itself, although it's done pretty quickly. Sometimes we'll be doing it right in the paint itself, and so other times on the canvas or on the paper, and then other times right in that little white spot in between the other ones to kind of mix up the colors that I need. I start out with some basic kind of outline of where things are going to be, and then I go to my light colors. Uh, Yellow is going to get dominated by any other color that I put it with. I'm not going to be able to use it to go over other things. So I put that down first. And then I'm going to try to avoid painting on top of that because water is pretty unforgiving. Once I cover something up, unless I use a really darker color, I can't change it. And I go here and lay out the whole thing. The colors are um, I'm doing this fairly quickly, just trying to lay it out roughly, get it where things are. And then I actually so I took a break there, and I let it probably dry for about 20 minutes before I came in with this next part. And I'm going to be doing a thing what's called stippling, where I'm putting lots of little dots and they sort of mix the colors together, especially with watercolor when it's wet. It wants to mix with the stuff that's around it. So I'm going in there, again, kind of avoiding the yellow that was already there and starting to put in some of the more greenish colors of the tree. And I'll fill that in here pretty quick. And again, after that, I'll take another break, and then I'll come back for some final details. You can see after this part that I go in and start to just color the whole thing. Now, a lot of times in watercolors, there'll be a lot of leftover white area, and if you can make that a part of your image, that can work out really well. In this case, I wanted to really kind of fill it in, have it filled bright, this kind of bright blue and green work of art. So focused on the tree, of course, but that background also sticks out. And you can see that I'm kind of layering and layering and layering. That's a real important part of all types of painting. All right, I start out with the basic form. I come back, add some more stuff. Then here I am adding yet another layer of color over that. After this dries here, I'm going to come back in and put another fine detail over the top. So this isn't something I did in 6-7 minutes. It actually took me a couple hours of working on it, let it dry a little while, work on it, let it dry a little while, and then that effect of that stippling, like I said, with a lot of little dots, I put that into effect across the whole painting. It made me think a little bit of Van Gogh in his style, although he was a lot more deliberate in it. Later on in the year, we'll look at some other artwork by Impressionists, and they use a style like this in a lot of their work, who Van Gogh was influenced by. After letting it dry for one final time, I'm going to come back and do like the real finishing touches here. Working on shade a little bit, making a little texture inside of the tree itself, and kind of pulling it all together as one final image. And those parts with the little parts of the branches that you can see, just making that make it look realistic and like an awesome piece. After this was all done, I'd let it dry, and then I take the tape off and I have a finished piece. Don't forget to put your name on it. After I finished the piece, I took the tape off, made sure I signed my name at the bottom, and let it dry completely, and this is my final work.